So now let's look at a different type of graph. And I'm actually going to remove this animation so it doesn't get too confusing. Just like my cars, go back to where my cars were upright and take my keyframes off. And now let's try doing a position animation instead. So move back my cars up. I'll put in a keyframe for position. And then move forward in my timeline and drag my cars to the other side. And if you have auto select graph type enabled, you should see a much different looking graph this time. Okay. If you don't, go in here and make sure you enable auto select graph type. What we're actually seeing now is called the speed graph. Okay. And these are the two main graphs you're going to use. So for a position property, because both the x and y are joined together and the movement of the curve of it is based off of kind of this graph editor and tying your spatial interpolation into your temporal interpolation, which means your physical space movements to your time-based movements. You can't work with the value graph in it, basically. And let me show you why. So if I'm going to go ahead and just temporarily bend my line a little bit, grab these handles and kind of warp it. And let me show you what my value graph looks like. So don't bother following me on this. You'll see that because I bent it a little bit, we're getting this bend along this line. And even if I put easing on this, it will adjust these points. But I can't get those handles out. So you'll never be able to get the handles with the value graph. Let me back it up, go back to my straight line, and we'll get back into the speed graph. So that's why you wouldn't be able to use the value graph for it. There's a more complicated explanation of it, but I don't want to overwhelm people that are kind of newer to After Effects with that. If you want to, you can always explore it on your own, or if you're in my class, you can ask me and I can give you a more expanded description of what's happening there. But suffice to say, if you're working with position property, which is one of the most common properties, you're going to have to use what's called the speed graph. And some of your other properties might require this as well. So the way the speed graph does is instead of doing the exact values, it calculates your speed over time. So right now mine's just a little bit below 1500 pixels per second. And since it's linear right now, we have a very straight line right here. The easiest way to get used to the speed graph is starting out with your easy eases, because you've already got a pretty good idea of what they do, and seeing how they affect the graph is going to make it easier to understand. So I'm going to select my first keyframe here, and I will apply an easy ease out. And then I'll select my last keyframe and apply an easy ease in. Now we're seeing what the value or the speed graph looks like with the eases applied. So the speed starts out slower, it gains speed as it goes through, and then it starts to slow down again. The good news is, like the value graph, to increase the amount of easing on this, all you would need to do is make this handle longer. And the longer these handles are, the more ease you apply to these keyframes. So slower to faster, then back to slower again. When we watch it, we can see that. They go really fast and then they slow down. It's almost like they're trying to get through a stoplight really quickly and they don't quite make it. So what if you wanted to do what I called before a speed in, speed out, which puts the ease in the center? Basically, you instead of pulling these handles up, you're going to pull the actual points up. So the points start faster and then go slower in the middle and then end faster again. So I'm going to grab this point and drag it up. Do the same for this one. Once again, you can pull the handles out more and that'll cause more influence to them. But now you're almost seeing like a pause in the center, and that's because down here it's all the way down to 0. So I could either lower my handles, which doesn't have that much effect to it, or more likely what I would want to do is just pull these points down. So slow down, speed up. Unfortunately, there's not really an easy way to do the back easing with this, because you can't change the angle of the handles. You would basically just need to add an extra keyframe going in the opposite direction first. Okay. If you need to get back to your regular view, you would just do that by clicking on the graph editor icon again, and then you'll see it disappear and go back into your regular layer view.